right, welcome back to So There I Was. I'm your host again, Travis Womack. Today's guest is coming to us from New York, Ryan Woodruff, the CEO of ClearPath for Veterans. We've got a kind of a special time here in front of us to kind of hear what you're doing for veterans, and then kind of love to hear your stories. But welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thanks for having me, Travis.
So just what I like to do with most guests, and they first get on is kind of what was your service, what branch, what'd you do, and just kind of start with there.
I served one enlistment in the Marine Corps from 2005 to 2009. I tell people often that, I feel like the Marine Corps filled a lot of gaps for me growing up, stuff that I felt was missing within my character, within who I was. I was a timid kid. I moved around everywhere growing up. I was always a new kid. We were never in any given district, school district, for a long enough time for me to build a community. So by a result, like I was shy, I was anxious all the time. I had trouble just sticking with friend groups or social groups. Didn't really want to do anything healthy for myself, and the Marine Corps represented all of those deficient areas for me. So that and that, I was introduced to Full Metal Jacket as a kid, and I watched
Of
some of these
course,
movies, and I was like,
it's great.
it's terrifying at fifth grade, like looking at that. But to me, it was like, yeah, like that's a transformative process that'll help me become a stronger man, more confident, maybe, some elements of leadership, definitely a lot of patriotism. I mean, I wholeheartedly believe that it was my calling to defend my country. And so I wanted to be like most anybody that's following the recruitment posters or anything else like that.
Right.
They look at the special ops and the recon, and I thought that was going to be my track. I enlisted as an 0311 rifleman, got what I wanted, and that's where I stuck it out for four
Congrats, you made
years. Yeah,
it.
yeah. The Marine Corps was like, that's it. You just want to get your deployment and be a grunt. And I was like, yeah. How do we make that happen? They're like, well, just get your mom to sign these papers. I was 17. She did that cautiously and hesitantly, but 2005 was right before,
Oh
well,
yeah.
not right before, is well within Operation Iraqi Freedom. So I
Oh
knew
yeah.
full well that I'd be deploying pretty quickly.
Yeah, right before the surge and all that fun and
Yeah,
Fallujah 1, Fallujah 2 and
right.
all so which Marine, East Coast, West Coast,
East
Japanese?
Coast,
East,
Camp
okay.
Camp Lejeune. Unfortunately, that's not the best duty station. I don't know if any of them are really great. I've heard good things about Camp Pendleton, Hawaii, even to a degree Okinawa. But yeah, I was in Camp Lejeune. Um, Not my favorite place.
Yeah. That's what is it? The words there, that's the real Marines, and there's the Hollywood Marines, and there's the Ocean Marines or something like
Yeah,
that. Or
yeah,
that's funny. I was at Bragg for a long time, so Lejeune's right down the road, and we would try to do training exercises with them all the time. It was just very, very difficult to coordinate things, and it's far away. We
I learned
jumped down
pretty
there one time.
quickly that being within a 500-mile radius of Lejeune, just you weren't going to get treated very well.
Yeah,
People, Marines in general don't have the best reputation
yeah,
for the surrounding areas of a base, and I made it my best effort to get as far outside of that as I possibly could anytime I had LeBeau.
that's true. So, what did you deploy during
I
the surge and
did.
stuff? Or
Yeah. So, I knew, I joined the grunts. I knew definitely once I got attached to my unit, we would be doing a workup and deploying relatively quickly. After I finished job school, did infantry training, which honestly, like people can say what they want about it. That was pretty good. Foundational
yeah,
tactics and just learning the real deal, like what it is to do patrol operations, setting up the defense. Like a lot of that stuff, people today, it's like that's your fourth phase of boot camp. But, that's when you get your hands on weapon systems.
oh
You
yeah,
start to build like some of those true relationships through struggle. So I made a lot of friends, some of which I would still call brothers to this day, some of which I lost too.
yeah.
And so right after SOI, School of Infantry, I got attached to 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines, India Company, and we immediately started training for the next 7 months to deploy right in between Ramadi and Fallujah in a
Mhm.
city called Habaniya.
Oh yeah,
We ripped out with 3-5 Dark Horse. They were there before us, running patrol ops throughout the city. Um, a lot of the hearts and minds stuff was being promoted at the time, but I wouldn't say that that was our primary focus. It was eliminating the insurgent threat within
right.
the area, connecting with the local population, trying to trying to build rapport, trust, at the same time kicking down doors, tearing up houses, looking for ID,
Oh
making
yeah.
materials. At one point, we were taking so much small arms fire and sniper fire that we started confiscating AK-47s, and
Yeah.
most of us know that who's been there, everybody has an AK-47. It's
Yeah.
just like people don't think about that back here. It's kind of in some places uncommon to have an
Yeah.
AK-47. Maybe not in Texas.
So you say it's pretty common around here.
In New York State, where I am, it's very uncommon.
Yeah.
However, like everybody has them over there. It's just part of the kit.
Yeah.
And we were taking all those away because we were getting sick. We were sick of getting shot at and pop shots coming in every time someone's standing post, IEDs. And so we didn't really do a whole lot with hearts and minds. If anything, we, continuously made that worse, if I'm
Yeah.
being honest. So it was complete immersion. Like I had an idea of what combat might be like. It wasn't what I expected. It was
Yeah.
hard. The experience of war is not something to really be glorified, in my opinion. You're broken down to nothing physically,
Yeah.
mentally, spiritually, morally, ethically, and then
Oh,
you're
everything
asked
gets
to
called into question. Yeah.
100%. And then you're asked to perform every single day when you just got nothing left in the tank. So very reflexive.
And then the next day it's all turned off.
That's the idea. I
That's
mean,
that's the hardest part is that it's like, and thanks, and now go work at Target, and you're like, uh, I want to break all the boxes violently, you know?
especially when you have those experiences at 18, 19 years old,
Right.
like formative years of your life. Traditional society sends kids to college or they're getting right into the workforce. They learn how to be an adult, right? Like they get out of
Yeah.
high school, they're, figuring out that they got bills to pay. They have to act a certain way. I mean, to a degree, this isn't the rule or whatever, but we didn't get that. We went right into the military at such a young age, and be it 4 years or 25 years,
Hmm.
that has become hardwired into you. That's your way
Oh
of
yeah.
life. And then you go to war, come back, go back to war, come back, and you make that decision. Like, is this it? Do I keep doing this? Is this my defined identity and purpose in life, or do I take a chance and a risk and try to see what's on the outside? The other thing too is like at 18, 19 years old. I mean, like you're still a kid, right? I don't think I truly became an adult until I hit my 30s. That's
Yeah.
debatable. And like pressure is something that you just don't like, right? Like you don't
Right.
like the physical pressure, the mental pressure. And if there's a way outside of that, and certainly there was for me and all the guys I served with, there was very few of us. I could count on one hand how many of us actually re-enlisted
Hmm.
after our two deployments to Iraq and then coming home and like yeah, obviously we're getting out. This experience sucked.
Yeah.
And,
It's
and
hot.
it's hot. I'm miserable.
Yeah.
Everything hurts. The only thing that helps me cope with it is alcohol or whatever it is,
Yeah.
alcohol, debauchery. So yeah, I'm gonna get out and see what the rest of this life has to offer me.
Yeah. That's a great segue. So how'd you go from '09? What'd you do when you got out, and how did that path go into creating ClearPath?
So
More
I didn't
formally.
create ClearPath
Okay.
was founded in 2011. I didn't
Okay.
enter the organization until 2016.
Okay.
Between those two periods, though, I would say at best I was wandering, trying to figure out what kind of path I was going to go down. I thought law enforcement made sense. Like that's essentially to a degree what I did, at a young age, being given the authority to take life, at EOF, ROEs, rules of engagement,
Yeah.
escalation of force, you just learn all of that stuff. And I went to school for criminal justice. I moved in with two guys that I served with. Bad, bad move. I mean, that did not. We moved into an apartment and we were all dealing with the same issues. I mean, eh, they were amplified because we were together.
Hmm.
We didn't talk about it. We didn't say like, "Hey, I'm struggling. I can't sleep," or we just did the things that we did and lived hard and fast. I didn't make it a year in that house before we ended up breaking apart and having to kind of figure out a different path for,
Yeah.
each of our respective lives. But I went to college, um, going to school right out of the Marine Corps after all of that. I was just didn't feel like I fit in at all. This is a common story, right? Like you're
Yeah.
going to school, you're showing up. Regardless of how much I drank the night before, you'd bet your ass I would have been there 15 minutes prior
Yep.
in class, in the seat, ready to pay attention. No cell phone, I wasn't sitting there I wouldn't disrespect somebody that was going to stand before me and teach me for that
Right.
hour, 2 hours, whatever it may be. But, society, these 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, I was like the old man in the classroom.
Yeah.
Like, man, I was like, they don't get it. Like,
They're
they
all at
don't.
6'7". You're like, shut up.
Yeah,
Whatever it is
right.
nowadays.
And this is 2009 to 10, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what's going on? Is this like why we lost 14 brothers in Iraq, my first deployment? Is this what we were defending? Because like it doesn't seem like I'm seeing a lot of like gratitude here for one. And it's not like I was looking for it, but I couldn't relate to anybody. So the problems I had before I went in the Marine Corps, they
Came back.
carried with me after I got out of the Marine Corps. At this point though, I was just like fully bought into, and I wouldn't say that I had an alcohol problem. I would never have said I'm an alcoholic. I was, and I was
Yeah.
totally dependent on it. It was the only thing that helped me get outside of my skin and feel different than I would be sober.
That's a very common thing, and I always was aware when I watched guys. I was like the weird guy in the infantry, especially in the airborne. Like I didn't drink at all, and they're like, "How are you here? Like what is wrong with you? You're like you're super messed up if you can cope without all
Yeah.
this, you know." And I go to these platoon parties or squad whatever gathering it was that someone who got a house off base. That was always the place to go. I'm sure the Marines was a similar version of that, and because the barracks is just asking for trouble,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you just chugged a whole fifth of vodka. How are you walking?
Yeah.
Not only conversating, but it's like the mindset and the tolerance is mind-boggling to see from like friends I had in high school and what they thought drunk was. And then gets the Marines, I'm like, it just, or the Army, and it just compounds. And you mentioned the living with your buddies though. I think that's a very interesting thing to bring up because I see amongst my platoon, we're in a group text. We've been going on for gosh, 15 years now, and it's just total nonsense. But as we've grown up, like we're all reaching back for this like this thing, this connection, this time of there's bonding through struggle.
Hmm.
And as his life has gone on and people get married and you got kids and and like those little differences of like, well, no, I don't do that. I've got a house full of kids. I function differently now, or I have my own company. Um and so like the guys that can't get out of that like longing for the day in the field back in July of '06, I think they struggle the most. And I think that's kind of why I started the show, like I mentioned before. And so it's interesting for you to mention that because I can totally see how that'd be a terrible, terrible year of your life but like real life kicks in, you all have jobs and you're doing this like 9 to 5 thing as 21-year-old, 22-year-olds. And, they come home late, like who's making dinner? Like, oh, we have to make food. It used to just be provided for us. It's your turn.
Yeah.
Who's doing the dishes? Like all these like marriage fights kick in, and you're like, can you get your clothes off the floor? It's just funny those little things start nicking at you, and you're like, I'm out. I gotta go. It's too much.
Yeah, I had that realization, and I would say most of us that have like this plan when we get out that doesn't come to fruition,
Right.
in my experience, is like, okay, I might just need to consider going back
Yeah.
or doing contracting. I did look into doing private security contracting for a while. Um, I think that's a trap. I mean, I'm not saying like there's a lot of uh, respect for those that I have that go back into the military or do a full career, like 100%. If
Yeah.
that's what you want to do and if that's what your calling is, I mean, there's no greater honor in that for sure. But I would also say like that's a dangerous place to be because you're making an agreement with yourself that there is nothing for you. Like you have no path to carve outside of the military, and I think that's a dangerous agreement to make with yourself and society at large. uh, because that really could lead to a lot of negative rumination, negative feelings, and you gotta find a place to connect and, you know, connect with others and start to work on a path to just get better. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing I feel like traditional society has lost, or not traditional society, that
It's
society
like, yeah.
in 2025, we have forgot that when service members are leaving the military, like we have a responsibility.
Yeah.
We need to welcome them home. And it's our time to protect those who served.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time. It took me years. I mean, definitely at least a decade to really start to clean up my life. I was functioning, like I was doing the things and checking the boxes, but in my head, dark, right? Like just felt miserable all the time. And I couldn't handle it. I didn't want to go to therapy or invest in time at the VA because it was furthering the divide, in my opinion, of
Hmm.
that lack of understanding. Like, how am I going to sit across from this doc who is going to ask me these questions or make me tell them these things that they haven't done themselves? It just didn't
Right.
translate for me. Now, I'll say years later, I have bought into that and I'm like, okay, maybe I wasn't ready.
Right.
Maybe there's a way to ramp that process up, but I wasn't ready to have those conversations right outside of the gate. We just need some authenticity. Somebody to be like, I have no idea what it must have been like to experience what you've been through.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you something. I'm here to help and not just say thank you for your service,
Right.
but I'm going to reciprocate that somehow. Like, let me walk shoulder to shoulder with you and help you do life. I'll take you down to the Department of Labor and we'll get you teed up for unemployment while you go to school through the programs and services that are available through New York State or whatever. Let me take you to the VA and introduce you to some folks before we get you started into some programs and labeled, for lack of better words.
Right.
We just really need that.
We hate
Like,
those labels.
we do need the shoulder
Yeah.
to shoulder approach. Like,
Yeah.
and other veterans that are getting out and going through it at the same time, that's not it, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
good to be connected and have a place where you can connect with other veterans, but you have to be on a collective path of like betterment for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I was at church yesterday and there's a guy in my church and he's got, beard much longer than mine. And, but he was a medic, different unit and, our army's massive compared to the Marine Corps, but like, it was funny. It's like we met like a month ago. And like once we identified real fast that we're both veterans, like it just cuts out like a whole lot of backstory that's needed. I'm sure you run into it all the time too. You see a Marine like everybody understands the crucible. You don't have to explain it to anybody ever again because it's already done. You both have this common knowledge, and I work really hard with trying to get like my parents have land and we'll go shoot, and like most gun ranges, I don't know about New York. Y'all are probably very hard to find. There's a lot of
Nerf gun ranges.
there's a lot of them around here, but there's a lot of rules, you know. And so like I mean for me as a infantry guy going to a indoor gun range, I'm like there's more rules here than there were at the rifle range in the army, and I hated the rifle range in the army because there were so many
Yeah.
freaking rules. And so I'm like, hey, this is my range. Like shoot as fast as you can. Like that's what we all want to do. Like we all want to get a pistol and just let it rip, or
Yeah.
get an M4, let it go and see how let's see how bad you really do suck, Bob.
Yeah.
And like and they do it. It's but there's therapy in that, and like there's a time and place where it's like, hey, we need to do that, in the moment. But then the other 29 days of the month, like we need to be able to function. And like,
Hmm.
but I think people fall in the trap of not having something to look forward to.
Having an outlet's huge. I
Yeah.
mean, if you think about it, yeah, as an infantryman, you're going to be on the range in the field. You're going to be doing these things to a point where you don't want to do them anymore.
Right.
Honestly, when I first got out, I was like the thought of running a range right now or grabbing an M4 or an AR-15, and
Yeah.
like I didn't find a lot of the novelty that other people did at the time. I was like,
Right.
I care less. Now that's different. Like I've been out for a while, and it does tap into something that has been built within my DNA to go to a range now, put my hands on a weapon system, and just have fun
Yeah.
and build community around it. But the same goes for fitness,
Right. Oh yeah.
100%. Like
Oh yeah.
I gotta, I just ever since I left the military, like I see a lot of veterans just drop that. Like they just decide I'm no longer going to PT every day
Right.
because that part of my life sucked. And instead they do a lot of self-destructive behavior, of which I did too. But the gym was just always something that I'm like, I'm gonna keep doing this at least. Like
Yeah.
I want to be strong. It's part of who I am. But that has become that's what a ritual for me now.
Right.
Like that makes me well at the beginning of those days that I go to the gym. Like that's the hardest thing I'm going to do in the morning, and it
Hmm.
sets everything up for the rest of the day to be pretty easy.
Yeah. A lot of guys are blind to that, and there's I don't know the Marine Corps transition process, but the Army's was terrible there for a while. They try to get better with the Soldier for Life thing, and it's for Joe, it's probably not too bad. For I retired, and it was the internship programs and all that stuff, and but it was all about getting a resume was a big thing. Like you gotta have a resume. I'm like, no one cares. Like, the biggest thing is, I mean, ChatGPT can make one for me in about 2 minutes.
Yeah,
And they'd be
yeah,
really pretty. I can put icons and avatars. So,
yeah.
but like there's that animosity that kicks in because like when you announce I'm not re-enlisting and you still have like 9 months to go, like you fall into this weird pit of like only thing I can compare it to is the others from the show Lost. Like you become the others. Like you're not one of us really anymore. You're still here, but you're really not.
Get put in a camp.
And then so like you don't get invited to start getting invited to things anymore, and it's just weird. And so you get this bad taste of like when I get out, I'm not gonna shave, I'm not gonna PT, I'm not getting up early ever again in my life. And like you just there's that blah feeling, and I retired and I still have that same feeling. And I love what I did, but I think there's a lot of, you go get roommates and you're all kind of in that bad taste feeling. And then debauchery happens and alcohol happens. And I think we get ourselves stuck in a really bad place and it's hard to get out of.
You can't throw everything out.
Yeah.
There's so much within the military framework that is good,
Yeah.
and the structure that it gives you, and just like having like an idea of what your day is going to look like, because it's not the same thing every day,
Right.
but you have orders, you know what's coming up, you have a gear list, you have a packing list, there's
Right.
inspections, you know when to show up for like there's a lot that really is good that
Really good.
in my opinion is a very desirable quality for like today's market of
Yeah.
recruitment for good employees
Yeah.
anywhere. So to just say like I'm done with all of that, and then
Yeah.
you live out your life that way for 3 to 5 years post service,
Yeah.
now like you have just shaped your identity to being like that, and
Right.
that is
It's a dangerous place.
it's dangerous, it's disheartening, and like my message to those is like there's still, you can still climb out of that pit.
Yeah.
Start where you're at, and like don't just forget everything that you did while you were in the military, or build like a new framework. I mean, I'm glad you said you go to church, because that has been
Yeah.
the single greatest thing for me since I got out of the
Yeah.
military. That has been the most healing, 110%.
Yeah.
But I started somewhere differently where I was like, all right, like I want to get physically better. I want to get mentally better. So I started going down like the physical self and really working on like my fitness routine, quitting alcohol, dropping some bad habits. And then from a mental framework, I started to do things like mindfulness, breath work, and I did do therapy. I went to the vet center for a period of time, and
Hmm.
it helped me adopt some new coping mechanisms. But so I got mind, I got body, but I'm missing spirit.
Yeah.
I had another veteran reach out to me through my work at ClearPath, extend an invitation to a small group unaffiliated with the church at the time that's been going on for a few years. And he just said, like, you look like you're struggling a bit. Like, would you be interested in coming out, joining this group? And you know, there's no like you don't have to come. There's no agenda. It's not only veterans. It's like a lot of vulnerability. We talk about scripture. We hit on some elements on this topic of how to do life. And I started with that, and that was like the missing piece for me. It was
Great.
so
That's awesome.
critical. Yeah, it's been amazing. I still to this day invested in that group, and I mean this coming up weekend, I'm going away with a small group of these guys up to the Adirondacks, and it's really meaningful.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think there's not to get too much time on church and stuff because I'm a huge advocate for it. But I run a Bible study here. And it's called Guys, Guns, and God. And I have a shop here on my place, and the guys come over like at 6 in the morning, and they bring their pistol or rifle, whatever it is, because like the hardest thing is to find time to clean if you have got kids.
Yeah,
And so I set up a bunch of tables, and we all clean our guns, and I teach a lesson, and then they go home with a clean gun and a good word. So
it's
it's a lot of
incredible.
fun. And then we go shoot like once a quarter and get them all dirty again. And then
Nice.
it's a self-feeding system.
I like it.
But and there's a lot of coffee involved because it's 6 in the morning, you know.
Right.
But but I'd like to hear about kind of what ClearPath does. I know it's more than just dogs, but
Hmm.
I'd like to hear kind of just what's your role and what is it they do and how does somebody, get started if they need to.
I started at ClearPath as a peer mentor, and a peer mentor is a veteran themselves that has for ClearPath, it was combat experience to connect with other veterans, identify their unique challenges, and help them overcome them over time. Could be 3 months, could be 6 months, a year, it could be for as long as it needs. That's how I got started. Again, like my path to law enforcement didn't work out. To be honest with you, I didn't have I mean, what I was doing with my life and nobody would have known it, but like I probably shouldn't have been in law enforcement when I first got out of the military
Right.
anyway. I got connected to ClearPath after I figured out I needed a new path. Had some different careers and whatnot. And I started at the lowest level as a peer mentor, and I've been there for 9 years. And just to talk about it, going back to what I said earlier, like we have lost something with traditional society and how we bring veterans home.
Hmm.
ClearPath is here to fill that gap. So everything we do, and yes, we do have a service dog program. We have peer mentors. We do employment, education, benefits. We have a culinary program that puts on home cooked meals every Wednesday. We'll have anywhere between 150 and 200 guests at our campus in central New York. We do a skill bridge program called Operation Socrates to help active service members move into a K through 12 teaching field. We have wellness and enrichment. So
It's a great name. Sorry.
yeah, we're doing things like non-clinical modalities, similar to VA whole health. We do massage therapy, acupuncture, meditation, breath work, all of these different areas that help deal with pain and stress. And veterans and family members, I think that's really important.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
here for the family members and the veterans. They can experience all of this, and it's this whole ecosystem. There's little to no barrier to entry. You can navigate all of this on the website, but we have a physical location too. Like come to ClearPath and experience our 78-acre property out in the middle of central New York. It's not New York City. People often think about New York as like Manhattan. There's more farms and cows out here than there are
Oh, yeah.
people, at least where I'm at. And it's beautiful. Our property overlooks a beautiful lake. There's hardwoods, 3 miles of walking trails. Um, and it's a whole human approach. It's here to meet the veteran where they're at and put together like a unique roadmap for them, whatever that might be. It could be part-time connecting with a peer mentor to work through whatever it might be, right? They could be just getting out of the military, moving into a home with their family, and they need to know like, well, like, is there property tax incentives? Is there something available for me as a
Hmm.
veteran in this area? Our peer mentors have all that information, so they don't have to go figure it out. They can just
Yeah.
meet and sit down with one of these guys or girls and get all the info right out of the gate, and then connect them to the VA benefits, a college that's going to be veteran friendly, set them up with resume building workshops. Yes, like it's
That's a need.
not in 100% different today than it was several years ago, but it's just to equip them with tools and help get them ready for what is going to be their new life.
Yeah.
So a lot of different things that we're doing. I will say the service dog program for me has been one of the biggest game changers too. I got started as a peer mentor, but actually went through the canine program back in 2016 when I first started, and it changed my life. Completely changed my life. I didn't realize that I had a drive and a passion for training dogs, and
Hmm.
the mutual connection I had with an animal just really helped me like table some of the things I thought of myself. I mean, it revealed some things within my character that I needed to work on too, and it gave me a reason to be better and keep going. So Can't say enough good things about that. We're an Assistance Dogs International accredited location. There's about 66, 69 in the country that are providing service dogs for military-related post-traumatic stress and
Hmm.
traumatic brain injury. Um, we're one of four in New York, and it's nothing to tip our hat at, but we're also doing everything else. We do the service dogs,
Yeah,
but you don't just get the service dog. You get a whole family and a network of benefits and resources just by connecting to ClearPath. So it's really a whole human approach.
that's awesome. If you don't mind, I'd like to hit on the service dog just because I know there's a lot of confusion, there for a few years on, emotional support dog versus service dog, and they're two different worlds. You know, as far as like service, the dog actually provides actual service, like blind, deaf, PTSD, comforting. My son's autistic, we looked into that for him as well.
Yeah.
It'll lay on him, it actually does something for that, opposed to the presence of the dog isn't the service itself. Can I clarify that a little bit for anybody that's
Yeah.
listening?
The best way to put it is a service dog is not meant to bring about more stress, right? So if you're adopting a dog and you're bringing this dog into your life, and undoubtedly there's going to be a level of pressure involved with that,
Hmm.
but the dog is trained and has been selected, and there's a process that you go through for that dog to really help you find independence, whatever
Hmm.
that looks like for you. It could be mobility, it could be visual impairment, it could be hearing, it could be
Right.
a lot of different things. And for us in particular, yeah, we're training and placing service dogs for veterans struggling with post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury and a whole host of other comorbidities.
Right.
I mean, there's anxiety, depression, there's nightmares, there's just panic attacks. There's a lot
Hmm.
of different things that come along this, and it's a one size fits one approach. So as we're screening veterans for this program, we really try to get into like, so what are the unique challenges that you're facing? How does that present itself? Physically, what does that look like when you get angry? Are
Hmm.
you like racking your hand up and down? Are you tapping your feet up and down on the ground? Are you bouncing your
Right.
knee? Are you touching your face? Are you twisting your wedding band? Are you touching your ear? And that way we can take
That's
that picture
deep
and train the dog.
to
Like
see
it
that.
looks at the picture and it knows through reinforcement history that they're supposed to do a behavior. They do
Right.
that behavior and it grounds the veteran, brings it back to the present moment. And it's a prompt. It's like, you know what? I was getting angry there or I was feeling anxious. But if you look into the eyes of a service dog that's been trained and intentionally placed with you, man, there is something incredible about that.
Hmm.
I mean, it does wonders. It definitely reduces stress, increases self-compassion, makes you feel better about who you are.
Yeah.
Symptomatic PTSD, I would say, yeah, like it works. It's not going to fix everything, but just to be, the biggest thing about post-traumatic stress and isolation and all these things, like
Hmm.
a lot of these people, they don't want to go out into public or go to the grocery store or go to social events or any of that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And in order for this service dog to be like up to par on their skills, you got to take them out.
Right.
So it's like exposure therapy at the same time.
Oh
You're
yeah.
going out and people are going to talk to you because you're walking around with the dog. And that's okay. Like we tell all our veterans, like that's an opportunity of growth. If
Right.
somebody's coming up to you and they have questions, don't try not to get defensive. Just you can educate them, you can talk about
Right.
the service dog, but it's a great way to be an ambassador for service dogs at large, veterans at large. Talk about how important this is. Yeah, like we don't want people running up on dogs and just starting to like grab the
Pet
scruff and
it.
pet them. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it is common, but like if we practice that in training,
Right.
right? Like this is going to happen, and it's gonna suck, and you
Right.
might get angry, but don't like lean into that anger. Don't get confrontational.
It's a
Just
7-year-old kid.
yeah.
Don't-
But our dogs are trained to be resilient in that
Right.
too, right? So they're not going to turn around and snap and bite or bark. Their job is to be focused on their handler and provide these animal assisted intervention tasks to help alleviate their stress. So we rehearse, we
Right.
rehearse, we rehearse. It's kind of like train like you fight, and we
Oh
do it
yeah.
over and over again. It becomes reflexive for the dog and the veteran.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the asking them about the dog, and being willing to talk about it because I'm speaking at a school here next week for Veterans Day, and part of my speech is about like I don't go into great detail, but I will hear a little bit more is from 9/11. that it started this culture of the thank you for your service phrase, and that quickly got transitioned into or added to it with, "Oh, don't talk to them. They have PTSD. You'll set them off." And then like we literally have an entire generation now of 20 plus years of don't ask them about their service time. Don't ask them about this stuff. And I think that's the biggest disservice to about 98% of veterans. There's a small percentage that like there's a direct event, you know, but like you've been deployed twice, I've been deployed 4 times, numbers are relevant, but like we all know, like vast majority of people weren't in a crazy, 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 crazy loss of limbs and stuff in life going on. But it's still stressful. You're still there, and if you're guarding the defect, it's still hot and sucks. You're away from your
Yeah.
family, and no,
Yeah.
not trying to diss anybody's job, but it's just a difference, and then but asking somebody, and I think the PTSD is like the kind of veteran guilt that is more than anything of like I went to be infantry, and just the way the rotations worked and everything else, somehow I never got deployed. How the heck did I go from '06 to '09 and never touched Iraq or Afghanistan and and they're so on the back end they're like, I don't want to tell my story because I didn't get deployed and this sucks, you know. And I had a guy on a gosh 2 or 3 years ago on this show, and he joined right after Desert Storm and got out I think 6 months before 9/11. And he's like, am I even a veteran? I'm not sure what happened here. And he really, really struggled with it for many, many years. And I encourage people, I give these speeches at the schools of like, if someone's a veteran, you don't ask them the question of like, have you ever killed anybody? Like, I hate when high school kids ask me that because it gives me the excuse to be stupid back to them. Like, do you pick your nose on dates? Like, no. I'm like, oh, I thought we are asking stupid questions, you know, and
I'm
it's
gonna
just like,
remember that.
it's a great one, just like something just dumb, and but I'll tell the little kids like, hey, ask them, hey, what branch were you in? That's a safe question. What was your job? Oh, that's cool. What's the coolest story of your entire time? Those are the 3 questions you can ask any veteran, and probably be safe because we all have that one fun story, in the barracks or the field problem or deployment or train exercise or basic training, side shuffling with your tray, you know, and whatever. But it's I think people, societies you mentioned earlier have a hard time with what do we do because they're not being trained what to do either. So they've been told through the media and everything else, like don't ask a veteran what, you'll trigger them. I'm like, if you ask me, I'll occupy 3 or 4 hours of your life. You'll never get it back.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good word, and shame, fear, and guilt are just not, they don't come from a good place, right?
Right.
It's and if that is something that is being prompted within you, like it's all the more reason to start paying attention and start like moving away from that, turning
Yeah.
and going in a different direction. And I would say, your environment's important. And as you get into these spaces and start being asked some of these questions, like your reflex might be to go right into the dark spot
Right.
and start reflecting on that, which I'll be honest with you, that stuff has caught me off guard sometimes where
Hmm.
before I've reached this spot that I'm at now, if somebody would ask me anything, like, what was your job? That could bring up a lot of
Right.
different emotions about what you did and moral injury and that kind of thing. And which is why it's so critically important to have a trusted community. And
Hmm.
that can be another, like, what do you call it? Bibles, guns, and
Oh, guns, guys, and God.
guns, guys, and guys. That's the ticket, right? Like we need more of that available to find a community of other people that have gone through varying degrees of struggle. It doesn't all have to be military, but a safe
Hmm.
space to start working through it, right?
Yeah.
Like, because those questions are going to come up and you're going to make a decision. You're going to go fight, flight, or freeze. Um, or you're going to lean in or you're going to like for me it was freeze. I didn't talk about my story for years, but I attended this group. I mean, it's it's like 3 to 4 years before I actually started like to open up. But it was just so powerful for me to sit amongst other people that were willing to put themselves out there and just be like, like I screwed up. I didn't, and it's not all about that, but it's like just to be vulnerable in a safe space, there's no greater healing because then after that, you start to encounter some of these questions. And you're like, you know what? I've overcome this at this point, and that's not who I am. That's not
Hmm.
my identity. I've worked through actually who I am, what my purpose is outside of the military, and usually it's a capacity to serve. Like that's a thing that we often forget. You
Yep.
swear an oath,
Back to the beginning.
back to the beginning. Like something within you, there's a spark. You swore an oath and then you've left service and now what? Like find a way to serve again. I think
Yeah.
that's really important because it's embedded within us as service members, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like find another way to serve. Keep doing it. Like it doesn't always have to be bullets and bad guys. Like there's a plenty of different ways you can contribute towards the veteran community or other needs.
Yeah. I think any employment, I think the challenge is using the whatever's going on. If it's the start of school, if you're a teacher, like it's a the I mean the whole basis of all basic trains is community through struggle, and in the mass punishment that's a little kind of
Yeah.
apart, but it works because like hey, we're all sucking. It's raining for all of us. We all carrying the same weight. It's muddy, it's cold. It's like you can complain all you want. We're all here doing the same thing. So your complaints are irrelevant in a sense. And kind of like we pull everybody along and kind of tell them to shut up, but then eventually there's that like you ostracize that person of like, hey, we're always getting in trouble because of you. And the military is a great place of like either, come along or you're going to exist in like an ostracized life and it's awful. And but I think civilians employment's so much different in that you can't really I think that piece is the hardest part to recreate in veteran struggle in that window of space and time.
Yeah. And your vocation it doesn't have to be like the fabric of who you are. It doesn't have
Right.
to define you as a person or make, the measure of the man or whatever. What I will say though is like there's a lot of value in finding a career where you can live out your identity.
Hmm.
And if you're doing anything
It's
where
great.
you're struggling with fear and like just compromise mentally or spiritually, um, it's just something to pay attention to. It's not, I can't sit here and say, because of these things, that's probably the wrong job. You should quit your job tomorrow. But it's a reason, it's a prompt to take a deeper look.
Hmm.
I mean, I've been with this organization for almost 10 years, and I'll be honest with you, there have been times where I was struggling by volume of work, by trying to meet the mission, by compassion fatigue. And there were times where I wanted to tap out through enduring through this journey, though. Like I've realized, and it's taken a long time. I'm now the CEO of the organization. I just hit my first year, and I finally arrived at a point where I'm like, this is the purpose. This
Yeah.
is what I was supposed to do. This is a way for me to contribute back to the veteran community to protect those who serve. Like that's actually what I'm supposed to do, and it just simplifies the landscape. Like it just made everything makes more sense now. So. You look at me 10 years ago, I wouldn't be having this conversation. I don't recognize who I was.
Yeah.
I'm surprised my wife has stuck with me as long as she has, but it is a really incredible thing to go through a transformation, and it's available
Yeah.
to everybody. You got to start with one step.
Yeah.
And certainly my encouragement to all of those out there is to find something. It doesn't have to be clear path, but there is so much out there available to you, and we were meant to do it in community.
Yeah. Well, how does somebody reach out to ClearPath for those that are listening?
Multitude of ways. You can check us out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can reach out to us on the website. There's plenty of different information about our programs. If you're interested in one of those particular types of programs, you can connect through some of the links available there. I'll be straightforward anytime anybody gets started at ClearPath. We really do our best to get to see the whole picture, to understand where you're at, and drive the right programs to you. Needs and readiness is a huge thing when it comes to the type of work we do. So while the first thing you might be interested in is a service dog, I know from experience and through witness that it's not always the right time to start with that program. Sometimes
Right.
it's better to start with peer mentorship or
Yeah.
something different to help you get into a space in between, thriving and in crisis.
Yeah.
And that's a good spot to be to to go into the service dog program.
Yeah.
A lot of different things you can participate in. You can always call the office too. Somebody will be here to
Okay.
answer the phone. If you want to talk to me, you can ask for me, and I'd be happy to talk to you as well.
Awesome. Yeah, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of another animal or person.
Yes,
It's a
definitely.
challenge. So, well, Ryan, I really appreciate taking the time, man. This has been awesome, and really appreciate your vulnerability because I know for anybody who's ever been in a dark place, it's even if you have recovered from it or gotten through it, and or we're always still kind of there. It's a challenge to talk about, but I really appreciate you sharing all that and what y'all are doing at ClearPath is awesome, and I encourage any vet to, you know, like you said, if it's not ClearPath, there's plenty of other resources as well, and the last thing we need to do is to not like do something. You know, we have to get off our butts and shave. I'm not shaving,
Move.
but so
Yeah. Thank you, Travis.
yeah.
Appreciate the hospitality.